We are back. It's time for our 28 Principles of Freedom talk. You might notice that somebody's missing. There's somebody new sitting in the co-pilot seat. Tag had some business things he had to take care of this tonight, and next week we're going to try to get one posted on Friday. But Yoda and I are going to be at the Back to the Land Festival, so it's kind of up in the air. Tag and I got to sit down and figure out when we're getting together next week, because he's out of town on business, and we're going to be out of town at the end of the week. So it's kind of up in the air, but we'll have something for you. So anyway, everybody say hi to Spags Unfiltered. Tonight's topic is one that I think he will dig his teeth into. Probably even a little bit more than the last time he was on, to be honest with you. But we're going to find out. All right, so you ready to start? So the principle 15 is the one we're on tonight. And it states the highest level of prosperity occurs when there is a free market economy and a minimum of government regulations. Now, Spags and I don't see eye to eye on everything political, but I think this is one thing that we can agree on, that we're both unapologetically capitalistic. I mean, I'm tired of feeling bad about making money. You know, like Darren told me the other day, if I don't stick it in my pocket, somebody else will. You know, so Spags, I guess the first important thing is what's a free market? I mean, there's a lot of people. I was thinking about that today. You know, what we see is so far removed from what an actual free market is. What in your mind, what's the definition of free market economy?
Well, as an obvious agorist in the anarchist community, I believe a free market is just that. It is a market that is 100% decentralized and 100% unregulated in everything. I think that free markets are the only way to raise the median wealth level of any society in general. I think it is the only way to raise the median wealth level entirely. And once you start regulating, you open the door to more regulation. And so I would say, there's a famous libertarian bumper sticker that says gay married couples should be able to own fully automatic unregistered machine guns to guard their pot fields. And that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a question. I was thinking about this. The free market, the prices are set by supply and demand.
Yes.
Was Reagan's supply side economics, was that true? Was that closer to free market than was that what we were looking for? Or was that still overly regulated?
Oh, it was still very much overly regulated. Anything since the Interstate Commerce Clause has been overly regulated, and we've just been in one ebb and flow of that. I mean, sure, we can make the argument that Reagan did a lot for the economy, but we can also now, in hindsight, realize that almost everything he did had catastrophic effects 3 decades later. Now, I'm not saying he was an evil man. I think maybe he did the best he could with what he had. And obviously, him being one man and one man only, he wasn't the only person affecting the economy at that time. We kind of tend to have this mistaken concept that presidents alone are responsible for economies, and that's just simply not true. But Reaganomics were excessively detrimental in many ways, because it didn't actually decentralize things. It didn't actually lower regulations. What it did was consolidate regulation down that favored large corporations. And again, as a capitalist, I have no problem with corporations existing. What I have a problem with are corporations that have the money to lobby Congress and the government to make rules that are so uniquely specific that essentially allow them to absorb penalty where the small guy can't. And that's what Reaganomics essentially did. And it ended up actually consolidating a good chunk of the world's wealth into that 1% pocket. And yes, everybody else tended to rise with that. But the rise was stifled to a large degree because the economic principles that were used during the Reagan era, and frankly before him and after him, still relied heavily on the government being allowed to have a say at all.
Okay. Well, and the reason why I brought Reagan up was because, the air controller strike, he basically fired a whole bunch of guys that were striking because they wouldn't follow the government's edicts. And I find it kind of kind of ironic that just this last week, Bernie Sanders uh, shot down the Republicans' attempt to force the union workers of the railroads to go back to work because of the federal money. I
Yep.
find it kind of ironic that right now we got people uh, cheering Reagan for doing it and vilifying Bernie Sanders for doing it. I am not a Bernie
Well,
Sanders.
sure.
I am
Yeah,
not.
I'm not either. But no, you illustrate the point perfectly. The point is that if it wasn't for the fact that the railroads were pseudo federalized to begin with, this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have public sector employees that are unionized. You cannot have, what's the word I'm looking for? You cannot be wise with money in the public sector when you have people unionizing to demand higher wages. It doesn't
Right.
work that way.
Well, and
So all these unions, be it teachers unions or railroad unions or police unions, all of them are corrupt and all of them have to go because essentially the union gives them power over the government. And that's how they use government to write regulations that favor them over anybody else.
right.
That's not a free market.
Right. Okay. Now the next question that comes up along that train of thought is, if there's no regulation, don't the huge corporations kind of run rampant?
Only if you let them.
Only
And
only
that's
if,
what government,
if
the
who lets
people,
the people? Okay.
the consumer. You see, a true free market not only requires a lack of regulation, but it requires an active, robust, and educated consumer base. Okay. The reason government is so dangerous, especially when it comes to marketplaces, is because they create parameters which make us lazy. I now no longer have to pick up my pitchfork and my torch and storm Frankenstein's castle because government will do it for me. And so, yes, in the interim, if we were to abolish government today and have a true laissez-faire, true free market, unfettered, no corporate cronyism, no regulation, no unions, none of it, there would probably be a very small period of time where there would be an adjustment period and it would go crazy, man. You would see some horrible things happen. But out of the violence of horrible things, out of the pressure, time, and heat, we get diamonds, right?
Right.
It takes a little bit of eggs getting cracked to make an omelet. And I would honestly much rather face down a multinational corporation with, my pitchfork and my torch than have the full force of the FBI, IRS, ATF, NSA, and all of the other alphabet boys standing between me and
Yeah.
that corporation.
The only downside I can see to that is you end up, the Soviet Union, when it collapsed, Russia went through the same thing. It was a Wild West, and they ended up with a kleptocracy. They've got a corrupt government that is basically stealing the people's wealth. Sounds kind of
So,
familiar, huh?
so you're basically saying government's still the problem.
Yes, government's still the problem. So,
I mean, if you think about it, the reason that Russia went so corrupt after 1989 is because of the fact that all of the major players during the communist portion of that country's history, during the USSR, there was no free market. All the market entities were literally government run agencies, government run markets, government run everything. So when they collapsed, all they had were still government employees that just pretty much became pirates.
yeah, it's the parallels are kind of really glaring nowadays. I mean, you used to be able to not ignore it or not see it. And it's kind of funny. I was smiling while you're talking. Do you know who Tom McDonald is? The
I
rapper.
love Tom McDonald. Yeah.
Okay, so he's got a song called "Brainwashed," and the very
Uh-huh.
first line in that song is "They teach us how to buy," something along those lines. They teach
Yep.
us how to buy or how to purchase or something like that.
Yes.
And
Yep.
you hit it right on the head. It's just if you look around you, everything's marketing. And it goes back to it puts proof to your comment that everything's an economic decision. Because
Yes.
if it wasn't an economic decision, they wouldn't market to it. The appearance.
Sure. Yep. No, it all is. Every decision in life is an economic decision. It just matters on what medium of exchange you're using.
Right.
I mean, even dating is an economic decision. You make your choices on who you ultimately marry based on what they bring to the table, what you bring to the table, what compromises you're both willing to make. Everything relies on economics. And so economics literally it is the mechanism by which humanity either grows or shrinks.
Right.
And so, yeah, free market is pivotal to freedom.
Okay. So one of the commentaries I was reading about this principle said that prosperity depends on a climate of wholesome stimulation with four basic freedoms in operation: freedom to try, freedom to buy, freedom to sell, and freedom to fail. And I went down
Yes.
and I tried to come up with one action word for each one of those. And what I came up with was that the freedom to try is opportunity. You know, people have
Yes.
to have the opportunity.
Mhm.
So in your mind, how are people how are people kept from trying in the U.S.? How does that? And we're talking specifically to the U.S., although these may apply to other countries and
Mhm.
other parts of the world. You know, is it
Sure.
racism and sexism that's keeping people from having the same opportunities?
No. Racism and sexism most certainly are real, and they most certainly have, in unique and individual time periods, had a huge impact on females and on minority neighborhoods and minority populations. Absolutely. But in today's world, that's not the case. In today's world, the two things holding people back are one, taxes, and two, regulation. Again, two arms of government that come down and absolutely stifle you. I own an LLC. Okay. I have a small business. Just to have that, I had to go through several layers of government, pay certain fees. Um, and now I have to pay, quarterly taxes, and I have to pay sales tax on things I sell. If I sell them, I have to pay income tax, even though I don't generate an income in the same traditional manner. And if I could just keep that 20 to 25% of my money, I'd have a whole lot more to go around. I could invest far more capital into the marketplace. I could hire somebody. I would be able to hold more inventory. I could put up a storefront. I could pay for a better website, but I can't do those things because a large chunk of what I make goes back to the government. And it doesn't matter if it's state government, it doesn't matter if it's federal government, it all goes back to them in some way. And then regulation. Quite frankly, I should be able to sell anything a willing customer wants. And it should be on me as the seller to make moral choices on what I choose to sell. And it should be on an informed public consumer base on whether they will give me what I'm asking for what I'm selling. So you take away regulations, you take away taxes, you get all the opportunity in the world.
So there's a segment of the population that equates uh, opportunity with outcome,
Sure.
and you know the ability to have the opportunity does not mean that uh, you're going to have the same outcome. That's the fourth one of those freedoms they talk about is the freedom to fail.
Yes.
And the action word I came up with on that one is learning. You know,
Yes.
and so how does failing help someone to succeed? So it sounds kind of contradictory to some people, you know, and they want to
No.
protect people.
No, it's absolutely accurate. You do not learn anything from success. If all you do is have a string of two or three easy successes in your life, you become complacent, you become comfortable, and you stop trying to achieve for more because, well, you're paying the bills, you have health insurance, you have a little bit extra at the end of the month, you can take the kids on a vacation once a year. It's safe. And we as a species very much gravitate towards safety. It's the risk taking of not having that makes things different. Okay. So as far as equality of outcome, there's no such thing. You could have four people with four unique. Um, you could have four people. Hold on one second.
This is one of the things you got to deal with when having youngins and animals. We have to deal with our furry kids during the live streams.
Yeah. Sorry, Ronan. My boy had a question.
That's
All right.
okay.
So anyway, equality of outcome. You could have four unique people with four unique skill sets, all given the same opportunity to do the exact same thing, and they are all going to approach it in four unique ways. And not all four ways are going to be successful. Okay, you can have someone who's very good, let's say, at being a plumber, and someone who's very good at being a carpenter, someone who's very good at being an electrician, and someone who's very good at being a tile layer. But if you ask all of them to do sheetrock, it's not going to come out right. And I know that's a very basic, dumbed down version, but I mean, we have seen in the 20th century alone how many millions of people died at the hands of states and governments who were trying to usher in a utopian system where there was equality of outcome? We saw it fail in Russia. We saw it fail in China. It's failing miserably in North Korea. It's failing miserably in Venezuela. And to all the retards out there who want to say, oh, look at Sweden, look at Finland. Okay, the Scandinavian countries are not socialist countries. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but they have a very robust semi-free market. The reason people call them socialist countries is because they have healthcare for free, and they have free public transit, and they have all this stuff for free. And while that is all socialist concepts, the fact is their markets are still very largely unregulated.
Mm-hmm.
They're more regulated than ours. You can't go there and buy AR-15s or ammunition or anything like that, for sure. But at the same level, the basic building blocks of what those society needs, food, clothing, all that stuff, you can go buy it. It's not like the government's come down and said you can only have 16 different brands and each brand can only have 4 colors, the way they did in Russia during the Soviet Union. So I'm sorry, but no, the people who are like, oh, equality of outcome can absolutely be proven because of the Scandinavian countries have obviously never been to the Scandinavian countries. They're wrong, and we should laugh them out of existence for having dared speak to us about economics when they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Well, and you think our taxes are, you know, the upfront taxes. I'm not talking about all the ones that we pay after the fact. That just the upfront taxes, what in Scandinavia, it's close to 70% or
It's a
something.
lot.
And
It's a
it's
lot.
really high. It's a good 20% higher than what we pay here last time.
Sure. Sure. And while those people might have a collective happiness level that's a little higher than ours, at the same point, they're living safely and they're living very boringly. And right now, their countries are being usurped by people from the Middle East who are immigrating, right into the countries and taking over their societies.
Well, and
You know,
even before that, homeschoolers could be thrown in jail,
sure,
you know,
sure.
and
Yeah, and the state has the audacity to supplant itself into areas where it should be parents, families, and local communities.
you know, and the one that got me recently was the German government. I don't know if you watched Pinball Preparedness, but he did a thing the other day, and you know that they get 14% of their energy from liquid gas, which
Mhm.
Russia's cutting it off. They get 49% of their energy from renewables. And so this cold, dark winter that they're going to have in Germany, where the German government told people you will not complain or else, it isn't
Yep.
because of liquid gas. It's because renewables aren't doing the job. And that's what
No.
you get whenever you get that type of regulation uh,
Sure.
of the economy. You know,
Right. Like if green energy truly is the answer, why does it have to be shoved down our throats to the level it is? We're not going to save the planet in 2 years by putting up windmills and not driving cars anymore. I'm sorry, but we're not.
well,
The
and
reality of that is it's a complete lie. So if renewable energy truly was the solution, why does it have to be so forced?
see, and you bring up that's the third freedom there in those four freedoms they talk about is the freedom to buy, and that action word is choice, and
Yeah.
you know, not not being able to choose what you want. Of course, you know, if you think about it from the government standpoint, you know, they're forcing people to buy healthcare, so they're
Mhm.
forcing freedom on people, man.
Right, right. And if they have to do it by force, it's not freedom. One of my favorite anarchist memes basically showed a picture of a Nazi with his gun to a Jewish person's head in a trench, and it said, "Ideas so good they have to be enforced at the point of a gun."
Yeah.
If your idea is so shitty that it has to be enforced at the point of a gun, it's not a good idea, and you don't get that in a free market.
Huh. I wonder. I wonder where 80,000 new IRS agents fall into that equation. Uh, just wondering. Just
Well,
wondering for a friend.
yeah, I know. Like, phone a friend in. Let's find out.
So okay. Now let's talk about this freedom to buy. I was trying to think. You know, how are people kept from? How's the freedom to buy something curtailed in our society today? You know, I know
It's
that.
drugs.
Okay.
The price of medications in this country is so high because we've made it illegal to buy them from anywhere else.
Okay. Is there anything else you can like? Um, the the what is it? The not the CRP program. The subsidies for for farmers not to grow things. You know, they're not growing stuff that people want to buy. So in a roundabout way, they're curtailing people's
Yes.
ability to buy stuff.
Most of your ability to buy comes from actual backdoor ability to sell, believe it or not. I have to get a permission slip to sell any number of things. I have to get a license to sell or give even just offer services. I have to get a license to cut hair of all damn things. If you wanted to come over, because you and I have the same haircut, right? You
Yep.
wanted to come over and give me $2 for me to rant, rant, rant and call it a day, I can get in trouble because I don't have a hairdresser's license or whatever they call it, right? So the freedom to buy, other than what's forbidden or regulated, is actually not nearly as in your face as the freedom to sell, because the freedom to sell ultimately curtails the freedom to buy. If you only have one or two people with the permission slip from almighty king, whoever, then you're limited in what you can buy. But if there is no system by which the centralized authorities with the state can say, well, you have to do this, 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 pay this fee, pay this fee, pay this tax, do this, do this, do this, pay for, insurance for your employees if they work so many hours, whatever, all these different regulations that constrict the provider, the seller, ultimately come around to affect the buyer.
Right. You know, and we saw that when we were trying to do farmers markets this year. The amount of regulations that you got to go through just for a small town farmers market is unbelievable. I mean, the state wanted to come out, wanted us to register our greenhouse if we were going to sell anything out of the greenhouse, and they wanted to come out and inspect our greenhouse.
Yep.
We could not sell freeze dried food unless it was wrapped in cellophane in
Right.
a non-airtight container, meaning that it would fail.
Yep.
No, it would not keep long term. Just all that kind of stuff, you know.
Sure.
So
And I
that
get it. There's been some times when there was some green milk. There's been some times where people died of bad shellfish or whatever. But that's where the robust and educated public have to come in, not the government. As, let's say, a food establishment and people always get sick there, stop spending your money there. Don't ask government to come in and come up with a bare minimum set of regulations that are easy to get around and then attach a fee to it. And then, oh, we're safe now.
Yep.
People do get sick all the time. I've been to Long John Silver's twice in my life, ever, twice. I've gotten sick both times. I don't go back anymore because of it. They could have improved. I don't give a shit. Not eating it.
Well, and you know, people underestimate the power that they have. Look at what Dick's Sporting Goods went through whenever they quit selling ARs.
Yep.
They're still in business for two reasons. Number one, they had enough volume of other stuff, they were able to weather that, but they took a really big hit from people that were conservatives that quit shopping there. The problem is that the people that consider themselves conservatives and patriots in this country have very short memories.
They
Case
do.
in point, NFL ratings are up the past year and a half. I guarantee you this year they're going to be up even higher. You know,
Yep.
has the NFL changed? Has the NFL changed its ways at all? No, it has not. You know,
Probably actually gotten worse, quite
yeah.
honestly. I mean, you can literally murder your wife and get away with it and still get a $72 million contract.
You know, so part of the,
So,
you know, we can point fingers at corporations, and we can point fingers at liberal ideology and the government. Fact is, every time we're pointing at one of them, we got three of them pointing right back at the patriot and conservative movement. How dare you?
no, you're right. The weakest link in the free market is us.
Yeah.
Because the minute something goes bad, the average person clamors for safety, and safety always leads to government.
Okay, so we've blackpilled people. We've been sitting here for 20 some minutes talking about how screwed up things are. Now let's flip the discussion on these freedoms around. Okay, let's start with the first one, the freedom to try. How do we circumvent what's going on in this country now, and how do we increase our ability to have that opportunity to succeed? How do we do that? What's your idea for it?
We stop asking permission and just do it.
Oh my gosh. So
Do not get a license. Do not get a storefront. Do not pay taxes. Buy things cheap. Sell them online to your friends. Get a following and grow.
but can't you get in trouble?
Of course you can. Freedom's
Can't you?
dangerous. Get over it.
Okay. Yeah, and that was my answer too. The whole freestanding thing. I don't know if you watch Matt and Gabby, making homestead living or something like. They're the ones that host the Back to the Land Festival. But
Okay.
they've got this concept. They've got this concept that they call the pop-up farm stand. And basically, you take all your stuff and you find a busy corner and you throw all your stuff up and you start selling all your produce and everything until you run out of stuff or somebody comes and chases you away.
Yep.
That's the basic concept of it.
Yep. At that point, the only thing you have to do is get permission from the property owner. And that's which is the absolute cornerstone of a free market, is private property rights. So even as agorists, how do I do? There we go. Even as anarchists and agorists who believe in an unfettered free market, we still have to respect private or personal property rights. Yeah, go talk to that liquor store or that clothing boutique on the corner. Say, hey man, my kids and I we grow some fruit and vegetables. Can we throw up a thing? And at the end of the day, I'll give you 10% of what I make. Make it worth their time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just ask for things. Be willing to put your skin in the game. Take some risks. Capital in, capital out. You'd be surprised how many people will just say, yeah, I don't give a shit. Why? Because you're gonna toss them a hundo at the end of the day. They don't care. You just bought them and their wife dinner and a movie. Of course they're gonna let you put a pop-up there. Yeah. And if they're not, guess what? You make a list and you share that list and you blackball people who are assholes and you blackball people who are like, I don't want you carrying a gun in my store. And so, no, you can't sell your produce on my property. Blackball them. Be the market change. Be the market influencer. They have the right to say no. I have the right to put you on blast. Bam.
Turn them into a coupon code.
Turn them into a coupon code.
Sometimes that backfires on you, though.
Only when some people don't like the fact you did it. But I mean, if I would have done it, I would have just done it.
Oh no, yeah. There's a long story there, folks.
That guy was a douche nozzle. So
maybe someday I will tell you the whole story on a video, folks. I'm not going to go into it here. Okay, the second one, freedom to buy, choice. How do we? I think you kind of hit on it. When you said make a list. But how do we circumvent everything that's happening and exercise our freedom to buy? Making that choice?
Again, stop asking permission. Buy whatever you want. Fly the black flag of anarchy and do what you want to do. Live free and live or die on your choices. And don't expect anyone to bail you out. And don't expect anyone to rescue you. And be willing to cash the checks your mouth writes.
Well, and
blackball people.
I think on the flip side of that, freedom to buy also means the freedom not to buy.
Correct. Withhold your money. You vote with your wallet.
And that's the
ballots are worthless in 2022.
That's the whole idea behind the movement that TAG's trying to push over at freesteading.
Yes.
We
vote with your wallets. Keep the money within the communities. And if that means you have to pay more for something, then guess what? Get the titty of Amazon or whatever out your mouth and put a little more money towards the people who believe like you.
Yep.
There's a reason the other side is winning the economic war right now, and it's because they are absolutely willing to spend more for a Starbucks coffee because it's a woke company. They're absolutely willing to spend more money at Target for shit furniture instead of somewhere else because it's a woke company. Liberals are very good at spending their money with people who think just like them because they are militant as hell. We, as the opposite side, and that includes conservatives, that includes centralist Republicans, that includes regular Republicans and libertarians with a big L and libertarians with a little L and the anarchists and the agorists, all of us who aren't stupid enough to be a progressive Democrat or a progressive liberal or a progressive Republican have got to start to band together. And if it means I spend $2 more for your product than the crap at Walmart, then I'm going to spend $2 more with you.
Well, I'm going to disagree with on one point that you made. You said they're more militant. I'm going to say there's a core cadre there that's more militant, but the rank and file is not militant. They're followers.
Well, yeah, but I mean militant in their ideology. Oh,
Nope.
this company over here supports unfettered abortions. I'm spending $74 on a latte there. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, okay, okay.
Militant in my oh, no, as far as militant any other way, they're fucking tapioca pudding running through your fingers on a warm day.
You know, that's why this whole the what do they call it? What's it called? The social credit score for the companies, the DEI movement, the
Yeah,
diversity, inclusivity, and whatever the other one, the E is, equity. But that whole movement right there is a way to deny people the ability to both buy and sell. You know,
sure, sure. And we are behind the power curve because the largest corporations in this country right now are now being run by woke CEOs. They're being run by people who have been pushed through Bolshevik schools, Bolshevik colleges, Bolshevik super PACs, and they've been convinced that the world's dying because of cow farts and hairspray. They're convinced that if you're white, male, and straight, you're evil, and that's who's running most of the business in the United States, at least on the macro scale, right? Small
right.
business is completely different story. It's a lot more balanced there, but as far as the macro economy of this country goes, it's absolute crap. So you have to be willing to divorce yourself from the cheap prices and the convenience of next day shipping if you want to make any difference.
So and the okay, so the last freedom there is the freedom to fail, the freedom to
Mhm.
learn from your mistakes. Now, I was thinking about this, and I honestly, I cannot, I cannot influence. How do I put this? So if I do something, I'm gonna fail or succeed. All right. So I really can't affect that other than my ability to try to succeed and all that. But we can stop keeping other people from failing. And I think that
Mhm.
the biggest place to start as a parent. Let your
Yes,
children fail. My God,
100% right.
my children are still mad at me because I let them fail.
Mhm.
I let them fail. My son literally, he bought this car. His very first car. He asked me, "Would you buy this?" And I looked at it, or should I buy this? And I looked at him and I said, "I would not buy this." And he bought it
Mhm.
anyway. I didn't say
Mhm.
anything. I knew it was going to dime him. It was a POS, and sure enough, it died, and it was my
Uh-huh.
fault because I allowed him to buy it. And I was like, no. And my daughter, still a little bit out of shape because I wouldn't pay $42,000 for her to go to Colorado State or CU. I don't remember which one. After she turned down a full ride choir scholarship.
Mm.
You know, so
Yep.
you know, and they're both. Don't get me wrong. They both have very successful careers now because of the stuff they went through. But there's still a part of them that is kind of butthurt about it. But that's where you start with your kids, man, or your family. In your mind, how do we make it so we people have a more opportunity to fail? I mean, or to learn from their experiences, I should say.
You're absolutely right. Start with your kids and don't bail them out. It is the hardest thing to do to watch your child fall and stub their knee. It's the hardest thing to do to watch your kid get hurt. But you have to. You have to let them do it, man. And it all starts with physical pain. Physical
Okay,
pain at the youngest ages are the very first synapses we start building in our brain for failure. And it sets the tone that dad and mom isn't going to sit there and put me in elbow pads and all this other stuff.
so Bobby was just telling us that we cannot be helicopter parents, and it is
No.
extremely hard. And yes, it is extremely hard to see your child fail. Um,
Mhm.
but it's got to be done. But what do we do about other people? And is there anything we can do?
All you can do is encourage, all you can do is educate. But the with understanding that private property rights are at the basis of everything, you can't force other people to do it because that's a violation of their personal property, which is themselves. You
Absolutely.
We
So,
have to do what the political progressives have done. For the longest time, the progressives didn't force you to do anything. They just quietly and very slowly took over the schools. And they started educating future generations and turning their brain into oatmeal. And now we live in a country where we're swimming around in oatmeal. And now that they have 4 or 5 generations of oatmeal brain retards running around, arguing over whether or not they can call themselves chimpanzee self or whatever, now that we're literally creating things to argue about that don't even matter, now they can start forcing whatever they want because there's no one left to stand up to them.
yep.
We have to take the same approach, but do it for right and moral reasons. We have to teach our children ourselves. We have to teach them economics, for one thing. We have to teach them what personal boundaries are, what personal property rights are, why all rights are individual, and why all things are not collectivist or group or anything like that. We have to explain to them what sound money is. We have to warn them against interest and usury and all this other stuff and teach them to live as debt free as possible. We have to do our absolute best to help them learn what it means to make their own good decisions.
Well, and I think
If you do it for them, they're never going to fail. They're never going to learn.
there's a, so I work for a tribal government, and in the social services area, there's a, there at the clinic, there's a thing up on the wall that says, uh, if you failed, it means you tried. Yes, I will agree with that sentiment up to a point. But if you fail, it can also means that you suck at it.
Yes.
And there's part of the problem with our society is we don't tell people they suck at stuff and that they should
Yeah.
probably move on and do something else.
Oh, I love you for this.
Dude, and I think it starts with school counselors. School
Yeah.
counselors. I don't know when it happened because it sure as hell wasn't when I was a kid. That school counselors, they don't look at kids and go, "Bud, you should probably go to Votech." You
Mm-hmm.
know, everybody can go to college. You
Uh-huh.
know, and look at the dropout rate of freshmen at
Yep.
colleges. In fact, I was talking about, it was CU that my daughter wanted to go to. The reason they charged $42,000 for incoming freshmen for out of state was because they had something like a 60% dropout rate with freshmen, and that was the only way they were going to get the money from that group of people.
Sure.
You
Mhm.
know, and but people were paying it.
Um, no, they are, and not only are they just now failing at college because they were told they could do it, now they're in debt.
Yep.
Now they got to pay that back, and now it's going to go to collections, and now there's interest, and now there's legal fees, and now there's, you know, their little Peasley, salaries are getting, money taken out now from the IRS, whatever. No, I am so glad you said that. One of my least favorite things, I absolutely hate social idioms. I hate these little cute phrases that people use. I especially hate the phrases that are used by soccer moms with their pumpkin spice latte and their yoga pants. I mean, thank you for wearing yoga pants. I guess
Yeah.
that's cool.
Some of them.
But you guys are retarded. Stop telling your kids you can be anything you want to be. No, they can't. They most certainly cannot. Learn to help your kids identify their strengths, help them work on their weaknesses, and allow them to fail. But by the time they're 16, 17, you're going to absolutely well know if they're going to have a future in politics. You're going to know if they're going to have a future in the trade. You're going to know if they're going to have a future in art. Okay. By the time they're 16, 17, stop encouraging your kids to continuously do something they just suck at.
Yeah.
Yes. No, your child cannot be anything they want to be. No, we're not all equal. Yes, we all have limitations. Get over it.
I I had a great idea for something to sell, kind of something you said, pumpkin spice Adderall. I think that would be a bestseller. So if there's, oh, you lost your sound. Oh, I think you look like you're muted.
Now,
Yeah, there you go.
weird. I didn't even do that. No, that is a Grumpy Acres Farm T-shirt. That's a grumpy thing to say, and I love it. Pumpkin spice Adderall.
And I'll tell you what, man, I got two stories about failing that really, for me, they strike home. First off, so when I joined the Marine Corps, I originally joined the reserves, and I came back to Missouri, and I got a job working at the boat factory in Lebanon, Missouri. I was upholstering consoles for party barges. It's the only job I ever got fired for. And I was so thankful because I sucked at it. I knew I sucked at it. And I was just doing it because it was a paycheck. And the guy told me, he said, you probably ought to go find something else. And what it did was it motivated me to augment and go active duty. And I spent 8+ years being on active duty in the Marine Corps, and aside from meeting my wife and raising my kids, best time of my life,
Yeah.
And then the second one was my son. This kid was one of my youth football players, and he was a great football player. He was a good kid, not very intelligent, just not very intelligent. Well, they told him he needed to go to college. So he went to college and failed miserably. And he had a really hard time when that happened because, everybody told him he could do it. But he got a job running fiber optic cable for this company. Kid was 21 years old, making $60 an hour running fiber optic cable across rural Oklahoma and rural Nebraska,
Yep.
So you got to let them fail.
Yes. And stop lying to them, because look, we need to consider why these liberally educated school counselors are trained to teach your children that they need to go to college. They're literally trying to force everybody through the meat grinder of a liberal education system and then furthering it with more liberal education to turn your kids into oatmeal. Stop
And
going to college, man. Stop going to college.
for most of them, hammering or getting them hooked on the banking system, the debt.
Yeah, banking system and debt. Now you're in debt. Now we own you. And because you're in debt, you're going to be in favor of policies like free healthcare for everybody. You're going to be in favor of policies like poor people get cell phones at the rest of our expense. You're going to be in favor of bad economic policies that actually hurt businesses from doing business because you think it's just not fair that they have more than you. And why do you believe that? Because you started out life sucking at what you do and you got into debt.
Okay.
Poverty can be defined very simply. It means you suck at spending money. That's it. That's what poverty is. You suck at spending money. It's not anyone's fault but yours. Stop placing blame at everyone's feet. Own that shit and get better.
Well, and and I've always told my family this, there's a difference between poor and broke. Broke means you don't have any money. Poor means you've got an attitude that makes you not have any money. That keeps you broke. So there's the key is we need to get people out of that poor mentality. And there's just so much that needs to be done on that whole thing. I mean, it used to be when I was a kid, being on welfare was something people didn't want to do. Now it's celebrated.
Right. Yeah. It used to be. We need to bring back shame. And I don't mean like scarlet letter, holier than thou, pharisaical assholes running around branding people for showing too much ankle. I'm not getting into that, but I'm saying we need to bring back the shame of failure. If you're failing at life, you shouldn't just be free to flit around and do whatever and say whatever and act as though you're somehow on equal level with the people who are actually succeeding. Because if people who are failures are being treated like they're succeeding, oh, you're just having a rough day, it's okay, the system is here for you, then you're going to get a base of people who have no clue what hard work is, what success actually tastes like, because they're never failing. They're just being strung around in this malaise of absolute mediocrity and not being allowed to blossom.
Well, and anybody that works in corporate America, and this goes to all four of those freedoms. I think this speaks directly to it. Anybody that works in corporate America knows people that are affected by the Peter principle, which is you're promoted to your highest level of incompetence.
Yep.
And there's some people that got promoted to some pretty high places that are completely incompetent. Not going to name any names, Joe Biden.
Let's go, Brandon.
I don't know. I better be careful saying that. Because there might be some people from freesteading here that think that I'm being divisive whenever I call somebody out like that.
Who gives a shit? They're certainly not reaching across the aisle to make your life any better. Why the hell should we give them parlay? Screw them.
Absolutely.
Why do we need to share a government or a world with these folks? Seriously, why?
Take your palm and stick it up against the camera to get it back in focus. There you go.
Is it back? All right.
That's, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Greta made you out of focus, man.
Oh man, I'm telling you, part of people learning by failure is us not extending the olive branch to our tards.
Gee, who would have thunk it? Such a
I know,
simple,
right?
such a simple concept. You know,
People call it being an elitist. I don't. I call it I don't have the time or the capital to spend on you.
well,
And
and
every decision is an economic decision. I've got a family of my own to worry about. I have a business of my own. I don't have time to extend my hand as an olive branch to people who don't appreciate me for what I am and who want me dead.
well, and this whole free market thing, it goes, and people don't understand how far this whole thing reaches. So the whole, I actually had a family member ask me if she thought that we had white privilege growing up. And I said, no. You know what the privilege was? The privilege was that we had parents that were engaged, and the parents that let us fail, and the parents that helped us learn from our mistakes.
Sure.
And that's that right there. You talked about the somebody's person, or them being their own, the basic of property rights. They own themselves.
Yes.
And that was last week's conversation. And the whole free market economy flows out of that owning yourself, owning your intellectual ideas, and doing all that stuff. And we've just abdicated that so far. It's not even funny, man.
Right. We become too complacent and too comfortable. Everything is done for us.
Okay, but we're getting close to where we need to cut it off. So I personally, man, I thought this was a great conversation. We threw out some pretty decent black pills and shoved them down some people's throats, and hopefully made some people uncomfortable. We also provided some really good white pills, some good solutions. I think you came up with a really good call to action. We need to self-evaluate, and are we learning from our mistakes? And once we self-evaluate ourselves, look at the people around us. Who are we enabling? Who in our lives are we not holding accountable and saying, look, you're failing. You need to do it on your own. I'm no longer going to enable you.
Yep.
And when you do this, I'm telling you folks, you're going to piss the person off. You may not talk to them for a long time, if ever again. But these are sacrifices that need to be made. These are things that we need to do. And it's the only way that we're going to get back to even some semblance of, we're not even, what we look at every day isn't even close to a free market economy. Not even close. I mean, the bureaucracy curtails opportunity, it curtails choice, and it curtails access. It curtails learning, and somehow, and I think the freesteading, the whole freesteading idea, where we starve the beast from the money, is exactly what needs to happen.
Yes. Economic black markets are free markets. So engage in the gray market as often as you can. Take from that what you will. Some people will say that's insightful. Some people will say it's not tasteful, but I don't care. If it wasn't for black and gray markets, the 1776 would never have happened. If it wasn't for gray and black markets, 1812 would never have happened.
You gonna register your garden so it's a people's garden?
Nope. But you know what? I don't have to. You know why? It's mine. I grew it. I put in the capital, I put in the sweat, and I took all the risk.
Yep.
But as a good capitalist, I also understand the principle of giving back. And so I give a lot of my produce away. I give plenty. All my neighbors get produce from me. They get eggs from me. I don't charge them anything, because to me, the economic benefit to me is I have neighbors I like and who like me, and we value each other. That's part of being friends.
That reminds me, I got to get out and pick pears this weekend so I can get them to work and get them to some people, because they're going to rot if I don't. They're just falling on the ground right now. But okay, before we wrap it up, man, you got anything going? You got something going on here. Geez, less than about 12 days, huh?
Yeah, about 12 days. Starting on the 28th, the Midwest Preparedness Project is putting on its fall festival for 2022. It starts on September 28th, goes through October 2nd. It's going to be a little bit bigger this year than last year. It might actually be a lot bigger this year than last year. I think we are finally going to outgrow that camping area, and I think next year we're going to have to move.
That'll be
We
great.
have a pretty cool property spied out very close to where this one is. I think will work, but that's in the future. But anyway, the big days, if you can only make it for so much of it, the Friday and the Saturday are the two big days. We have 6 classes. We have some extra content. We have Bartertown. We have a potluck. We have a lot of prizes we're giving away. We were so successful at our last one because of free market principles, honestly, that we were able to reduce the price for prizes this year. We're giving away a whole bunch of stuff. You know this because Grumpy Acres Farms has donated a very kind amount of stuff. Grumpy Acres is not only sponsoring the event with a large 72-hour freeze-dried meal kit for a family of 4, they're also providing stuff for the kids events. They're providing all kind of neat stuff. So come to the Midwest Preparedness Project Fall Festival. It's going to be at Perry Lake in Kansas, northeast, about 20 minutes of Topeka, up in the northeast of the state. We don't care what state you're from. It's Midwest. Come from Missouri, come from Nebraska, come from Oklahoma. It's free to attend. Come hang out. Hang out as little or as much as you want. Camp if you want. Bring your RV. There is limited RV spacing, but there's enough there for a few folks.
Well, they could go down. They could go all the way down the road back towards the gate. I mean, there's all kinds of room there for
There's a
RVs.
lot of room out there.
And worst kind, there would be nothing greater than Friday having to scramble around and get some porta potties in there because that vault toilet couldn't handle the load.
Well,
That
we're
would,
gonna have a stage this year. I can tell you that.
no, really?
Kyle from Nowhere Homesteading.
Yeah.
He's gonna be bringing in his large flat trailer, and we're gonna be using that as a stage.
Oh, awesome. We're going out there tomorrow to help him build a sheep enclosure for the sheep he's getting from us.
Oh yeah, awesome. That's cool.
Us and the Hacks family are going out there and helping him tomorrow put up that shelter. It'll be pretty fun.
Nice.
And folks, I'm telling you, if you live in northeastern Kansas, central Kansas, southern Kansas, southeastern Missouri, or southwestern Missouri, west central Missouri, southeast or southwestern Iowa, southeastern Nebraska, you're within driving distance. You can make a day trip out of it.
Yep.
Lake Perry is really centrally located. If you don't want to come out and camp overnight or camp because it starts on Wednesday, right? On the 28th.
It starts on Wednesday for the folks who are the hard chargers. That's the 28th. Yeah.
So you can go out there and camp all week, or you don't want to camp just Friday night, go out there Friday morning and then camp. If you don't want to do that and just go out on Saturday, it's an easy drive from all those places. I'd say from Columbia, Missouri, Wichita out. I don't even know what the big cities are out in western Kansas. South, you could drive from Omaha. So folks, if you're out there, try to make it, man. I mean, you just meet all kinds of good people at these places. This is where we met our circle. We met Spags through the camp out, and it's really good. Okay.
Awesome.
So I told you what we were doing this week, and then like I said, we're going out to the Back to the Land Festival. If we were going to have a vendor tent out there, we would probably be taking a lot of freeze dried food and non-USDA kitchen stuff. If we were going to have a vendor tent, any IRS agents that are out there, we're not doing that. We are not pursuing alternative underground economy. We are law-abiding citizens of the Republic. So if we were going to do that, that's what we would be doing. So if you go there, you would be able to get stuff from us. I'm just saying. And then, folks, Spags has got a t-shirt shop. We've got a t-shirt shop. I'm going to put links down below. Are yours on Amazon?
Yeah, the guy who helped me design the shirts, put them on Amazon. I'm trying to find a way to migrate it all off of there though, because I don't like Amazon. I figure I should probably practice what I preach as much as possible. So we're trying to find an alternative. It's just a matter, again, capital, economic decisions, the ability to either have to maintain stock and ship or do things through drop shipping. It's just finding companies that you're willing to partner with.
Bonfire is the one we use, and I highly recommend it. It's one Billy uses too.
Oh, send me a link. I need to find some place to get stickers made and everything still. I just have not had the time to look into the swag yet, but yeah,
they don't do all they do is t-shirts, and They do a tote, and they do coffee cups. I think they even do
Okay.
masks. So whenever the midterm election variant comes out, you can get a mask branded with whatever Spags Unfiltered message you want to say.
Oh no, you will never find my stuff on a mask. I draw the line there, man. I would much rather have Spags Unfiltered G-strings and thongs instead of a stupid mask.
Well, that's one thing I'll give Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher. They had their "I Miss America" logo plastered all over cloth masks, and they were selling. Yoda bought one. And then, you know what? I was doing some research today, or yesterday actually, and I was looking for keyword terms. And I had done a video last week on full spectrum preparedness that did great. And it's a concept that a buddy of mine came up with in Iraq back in the aughts. So I was searching YouTube to see what was out there for full spectrum preparedness, and I ran across a channel that was called Full Spectrum Preparedness LLC. And I was like, great, there's somebody out there. Well, there hadn't been any videos on that thing since 2015. And I saw one that said Kansas Prepper Expo. I was like, huh. So I clicked on it. Folks, if you want to see a young Spags Unfiltered with a baby face, the same goatee and the baby face, he's got videos out there. And you realize you still got subscribers on that channel?
I know. I thought I had deactivated that YouTube channel when we got rid of that LLC, but yeah, Full Spectrum Preparedness LLC is no longer held by me. So tell your friend to run with it.
Yep. Well, and I'm turning it into a full spectrum homesteading.
There you go.
The melding of full spectrum preparedness from the prepper standpoint and permaculture from the homesteading standpoint. You put those together, it's a strategy that if your homestead is completely complete if you follow these 10 points that my buddy came up with, you know. So I thought that was funny. So folks, Full Spectrum Preparedness LLC YouTube channel, go out and check it out.
Ooh, it's so cringe, man. I made everything on like Microsoft Video Maker. I thought I was basically not even as good as a high school student at that point. It was so bad.
It wasn't that bad.
Oh, it was horrible.
All right, Spags, you got any closing words for people?
Every decision in life is an economic decision, so make good economic decisions.
All right. And with that in mind, go out there and make those decisions in pursuit of a life done free, folks. Take it easy. We're out.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Milo.